Hey guys, welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe and I'm joined by Nathan. And today we're talking about Your Line April, but the musical.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's right. So, me, Nathan, and a mate went to see the Your Line April musical in the West End a couple weeks ago, and we're going to talk about it today. Sad news is about the Your Line April musical. Disclaimer: it's actually coming to an end on today, the time of the record. It's ending. It's ending early. So looked into it, and Your Line April was supposed to finish on September 21st on the West End, but it is now ending on August 11th, 2024.
Yeah.
Sad times. There's no explanation behind why Your Line April is ending. Not to our common knowledge anyway. Like we looked into the articles, it doesn't seem to be anything like, oh, it's a turnout issue, or they haven't said it, but um amongst ourselves we speculate that it might be that maybe people aren't turning up, maybe. Like, it's nothing definite, but yeah.
Which, even as our own conjecture, is doesn't quite make sense because our showing was like pretty packed.
Yeah, we saw it on a Sunday evening as well.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people still. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't like there wasn't like those empty seats at all. Like, there may have been like one or two in like right in the corner somewhere,
yeah.
but like I don't know. Maybe there isn't the appeal to it, but the fact that it's ending a whole month, over a month early, is mad.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, it's all speculation on our part. I mean, that also is like you can probably tell from our
Mhm.
tone we're just as confused. But we'll get into it a little bit more in a bit. I do find it absolutely hilarious though that I have only seen this anime this year. Like I watched this a few months ago for Cultured
Yeah.
Boys, and then the next thing is like I'm going to see the
He's
musical.
he's lit Nathan's literally gone all in on this. But, like, both of us fans of the series. Now, Nathan a new fan, myself, like, an older fan
Yeah.
of it. Um, and regardless of when you watched it or if you haven't watched it at all, like, this musical is pretty interesting to say the least as well.
Mm,
Like, both myself and Nathan have the programs in front of us. So
yes.
if you hear the sound of paper opening up
Yeah.
like that, it's
we
gonna be
we
us
will be
just for
referring to
the
this a lot. Because
yeah.
I mean, I could not, you know, long time listeners know we would normally do a breakdown, there's notes and stuff, but
Yeah.
where we basically normally I would Google all this, but we literally have the book. We have the
Yeah.
books to tell us. And I will say, no breakdown this time because we already did that for the anime. So,
We're just gonna be talking about how this stage play adapts the original series, the original
yeah.
anime, manga, everything, like. And, um, should we dive straight into it? Because I feel like there's a lot to comprehend with this. Going first, should we break down with the cast, I guess?
Sure. So the cast actually was pretty good.
I'd say so,
I thought
yeah.
I thought they were quite good. The th- the thing is like this one can be quite hard because like before you go into it, knowing what we know of Your Lie in April, it's like, okay, so it's a musical, so we know they have to be able to sing. Obviously, it's a stage play, so they have to be able to act. And then but when it's like, but Your Lie in April is about musicians. So it's like, are they gonna be able to play the instruments or are they gonna play instruments or
This is one thing as well. I went into this completely blind. I didn't know whether it was like a stage show or musical or whatever. Like, I went completely blind into this. I didn't know there'd be singing either. That was like I wasn't looking into anything about this. I didn't look into the songs or whatever. So the first few notes you see, the first time anyone comes on stage, it's literally what's it? I how do you pronounce his name? Sorry, is it?
okay, so Kosei Arima was played by Zheng Shi Yong.
Yeah.
And as he's pretty good. He's a good singer, and he
He
can actually
is.
play the piano. So that was
Mm.
nuts.
When the stage opened up and you see him on stage, it's a weird feeling because you're literally thrown into what the stage play is gonna be for the next, like, 2 hours, basically.
Yeah.
And it is one of those ones where I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give you my totally honest opinion here. The first few notes, I was like, "Oh, I'm not entirely sure on this. What have I got myself in for?" Because it opens up with the song "If I Can't Hear the Music," and um, I don't know if it's the strongest opening. It sets up the whole thing, so, like, it's him and his child self on stage, and, like, it's the fact that his mother's there, like, he's seeing, like, visions of his mom and stuff like that. Um, and it's it's a Zeng's, opening debut, like, well, for the well, it's the opening song for this, and it just seemed a little shaky to me, and it immediately I was like, "Oh, I don't know how I feel about this."
Interesting. The only note I had about the opener was just that it went on a bit too long.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's been a while since I've seen like a musical or like a stage performance. So maybe I was just a little maybe I'm just a little less in tune with what I feel or what I'm listening to. But like I thought it was all right.
I look, this is one thing. I think going into it, I was kind of just unsure, and it doesn't mean that he's bad at all. This doesn't mean that like I don't think he's good. I think it's something that he gets better in the show. I think sometimes maybe he just needs to warm up or something, but realistically, I don't think that's an issue. Um, but as the songs went on, I think maybe it's just that opening song. Like maybe you said, maybe it went on for a bit too long. Also, it's worth noting that all these characters are putting on an American accent in this
Yeah, that
show.
was a choice that I really didn't enjoy very much.
Yeah, it came across quite cheesy, and obviously they're singing in American accents as well.
They did, and I said this to some people, is that they put on the American accent, but they did that thing where when they say a character name, they really heavily enunciate in the Japanese pronunciation, and it
Mhm.
really, really, really throws you off. It reminded me of when I used to play Fist of the North Star Ken's Rage in the first one, and it's like I always think back to one of the first cutscenes where Kenshiro runs in and he's like, "Yuria, it's me, Kenshiro."
Yeah, okay.
And
I
it's
completely
literally
see what
that.
you mean now, I get
They
what you mean, yeah.
literally are like, "Oh my god, Kose, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Kose
Yeah, and
Arima." You know, it's like, oh, okay, like I get it. I get it. You want to pronounce it properly, but I was just like, oh, it's just the switch is so jarring. So
it hits,
jarring.
and that because it goes from that musical number, "If I Can't Hear the Music," straight into Kosei being hit with the baseball,
Yep.
and you see Tsubaki come in, played by, Rachel Claire Chan, and it is like, oh, it is straight into that American accent, and it's like, "Kosei, what are you doing?" And then it's like these jokes which are kinda a little bit like, "Oh, I'm not really laughing along here right now," and it's just maybe it's not my thing, but it also comes across as a little bit cheesy to me.
A lot of the comedy in it I found was like kind of like pantomime.
Yeah, I
It
agree, I
was that
agree, it
kind of
is.
vibe. Like they do that sort of like slapstick a little bit, kind of like nudge nudge wink wink. They were just short of doing the I don't do this. Oh yes you do. You know like
Yeah, it's so, like, unnatural, I think. This one, like, some of it just feels a bit too forced.
it was an interesting choice.
There's a lot that, like, comedy does kinda work at times. I feel like it doesn't mean to say that the whole comedy thing falls flat. It's just, like, some of it just feels like, "Okay, cool, get it," or it's like, okay." Like, a lot of the comedy does come from, Watari as well,
Yeah.
played by, Dean John Wilson. And I feel immediately unsure about how I feel about Watari in this because in the original anime, he features a lot heavily,
Mm.
in it, and you get the impression that Kaori is really, like, into Watari.
Mm.
But in this, you get from the get-go, when all of them come together, you immediately see that Kaori is not into him whatsoever, which also feeds into the fact that if you know immediately, if in those first 5-10 minutes that Kaori's not into him, the whole plot falls flat, in my
Mm.
opinion. Because like Kosei's there, like, oh, she's into Watari. But you already know she's not. You're already seeing Kaori and Kosei's bond. And it's just like, oh, like it's clear that she's not into him. Which also leads into my next point about cast members. Mia Kobayashi, who plays Kaori, out of all the cast members in this, absolutely phenomenal.
Oh
That
my
is
god.
like out of
She
all of the cast members, out of all of them, incredible, absolutely
absolutely
incredible.
smashed it. Like, she is not only like the strongest singing
Hmm.
voice, as in like when she comes in and she sings with other people, or like she does a solo and then someone follows up, you're like, in comparison, even though everybody's pretty fucking good, like she's like that next level that you're just like, oh fuck, man, you just, it doesn't feel right. Like you fall flat a little bit because she's just like too strong.
She is like up there, like literally, and this is her West End debut. How have we not seen more of this woman beforehand? Like, she is absolutely incredible. Singing voice is insane. Like, if I could say anything about this musical, and I think it's an even bigger shame that this is closing early, especially for Mia's debut in the West End. Like, it is so shameful that like this is ending for her early because she is easily one, like probably one of the best performers I've seen in a West End. Honestly, like her voice is mad.
Dude, any time she comes on stage, there, obviously there are acting parts, but she is mostly there to sing. And again, like we just said, absolutely fucking kills it. Fucking
Yeah,
kills it, man.
absolutely.
It's nuts.
Like,
Like, and it, like Pepe said, for a West End debut to come out like fighting that hard and like knocking it out of the park, like fuck, dude.
mhm. Yeah. I really hope that after this, like after this ends, like she gets something like immediately because she needs more. That's all. I'm just gonna say that she needs more. That is absolutely incredible performance. But those are the four main characters in this. You have obviously the
Mm.
ensemble as well. You have like certain what was it, characters that come in.
You
Yeah.
still got Emmy, you still got Takeshi, you've got Kosei's mom, you got young Kosei,
Hmm.
who of which young Kosei was actually played by a kid, Timothy Jiansun. Uh, that was, at least there was three young Kosei actors, but that was the one that was the actor that was on the night we watched it. And
Hmm.
I have to say, for a little kid, that takes absolute courage to go on stage, perform. He might not have actually played the piano, but I think he did. I think he actually did play some of that piano, which again in itself also nuts. But like the kid acted, the kid
Hmm.
sung, played piano. I'm like, kudos, kudos
Yeah.
to him.
On on a stage like that, like, and again, night after night, like, guaranteed it's probably not the same actor every time either. But like he did smash it. Like for a boy that age to come on stage and like in the West End and do this, and there was no fault in it. It's not like so. I like don't mean to be mean on children or whatever, but sometimes a child acts can be like, oh, okay, it's a kid trying to act. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like Timothy smashed it. Like fair play to the kid. He's like,
Also, like, that duet he does with Jing? Like,
mhm.
there's that one song in like Act Two where they
Yes,
essentially do
yeah.
a duet. They've blended pretty well. Like,
Mhm.
funny enough, like Timothy as a young Kosei was like had more volume when they were singing. Like, even though they
Mm.
have mics and stuff, like
Yeah.
I often heard Timothy like more because he
Mhm.
just seemed to have more volume. I don't know. He was just louder, but like, yeah, dude. Again, like I was sitting there watching it thinking like, if I was that age, I would not have even bothered to I would have had fucking stage fright. Like, I wouldn't have even gone that far.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, he's, like, as far as, like, kid actors go, especially on the West End, like, really professional for him, like, he's doing good for his age, like, fair play. Right, okay, I guess, like, kinda brings us on to the musical numbers as well,
mm,
because, um, some I mean, understandably for the series itself, given that the series is a drama, slice of lifey kind of thing,
mm,
a lot of the songs were more ballad focused, which I don't mind in a musical. It's absolutely fine. I'm more like when it comes down to musical numbers, I'm one of those guys that likes like the really upbeat ones and like the fast paced, like a lot of
yeah.
like electric guitar kind of like some things that might come across as quite cheesy to some, but those are like kind of my favorites.
I mean, like, to be fair though, and this is just my opinion, but when you go and
Hmm.
see musicals, I feel like
Hmm.
musicals are often like cheesy anyway. So like you can't really like get away from like that. But like I enjoyed quite a lot of the songs. I think hearing Perfect, which is like Coyote's like song, I don't know. It's another one that's like I understand that's like her character, so that song is supposed to be like how she views everything. But
Hmm.
I just felt like it's like in here what one, two, it's like it says here in the program, it's here like three times. So twice in act one,
Hmm.
once in act two. But it just felt like I get it. She sees the world like this, but I'm like, I don't need to hear this song that many times. It's an alright song.
Yeah.
But three times in the entire performance, I didn't think
I
it was
get you
that
mean, like,
strong.
I don't think it's that strong of a song, like, because there's certain things like Hamilton, for example, where they make callbacks to other songs, but, like, it ties in really well. Whereas, like, Perfect, I understand, like, yeah, it's a band that shows off, Mia's singing voice quite a bit, but it just feels a bit, like you said, I've heard this before, and I'm hearing it again, and I kinda get the picture of it. Um, one on the other hand, one that did pop up quite a few times is One Note. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember. It's like, which I kind of like that. I'm like, it's the introduction to, is it Emmy and, what's his name? Is it Sabaki? Sorry.
It's
Is
Emi
it
and Takeshi.
Takeshi? That's the one. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's again, we had this problem in the other episode. I completely forgot those two characters' names.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like Watari, I remember Tsubaki, all that kind
Well,
of thing.
here's
But
the worst part for them is like at
yeah.
least in the anime, they had more to do. This time round, I felt like they almost didn't need to be in it.
They they're basically it feels like glorified extras. Like,
Mm,
they've got names and they do have more speaking parts, but they do, like, no more else than what the ensemble do
yeah,
anyway, except maybe they do a couple extra scenes. But obviously, because it's an adaptation, they need to cut this down, like, from a 24, 23 episode anime to, like, a
yeah.
what is equivalent of a 2-hour stage play. Understandably, you have to cut out certain bits, and obviously they cut down a lot of,
But the
like,
thing is
Takeshi and
like
Emi's story.
if you cut it that much and they just like the most important thing they did, and I said this to Pepe, the most important thing they did doesn't even make sense because it's when they go to look for Kosei and they find him, and in the anime, Tsubaki and Watari just steal bikes. They just see some bikes, they take them,
Yeah.
and then they ride the bikes down to the concert hall. In the stage play, Emi and Takeshi come out of nowhere,
Mhm.
and this is the most important part. They give them the bikes. They're like, "Oh, you're not on our watch. You're gonna make it." And then they give them the bikes, and then they disappear, right? But but Coyote and Kosei and Tsubaki and Watari ride off. They sing a number,
Mhm.
but if
Mhm.
you think about it in reality to this thing, you're like, okay, they need to get there before you guys because they're doing the like joint violin piano part. You guys are just doing piano, but you guys still have to get back there,
you gave them your bikes, and again,
right?
this comes out of nowhere as well because like Emi and Takeshi, they've seen Kosei play once, and then they're like, oh, he's kind of crap, and then he's supposed to be playing again, and then
Yeah.
it's like, and they're like, oh, we're gonna put all into this. You have to do this, or like I can't even remember if like they saw him play the first time. Actually, like my timeline on it is a little bit hazy because this is all in the first acts as well.
In the
Um,
stage adaptation, they saw him play. In the first part, they just like if it was the anime, then they would have seen
mhm,
him, and I think they might have heard him. And this is like in terms of the anime, this is like the second time he would have played,
mhm.
maybe the third time, but they're not friends yet because in the anime they're
Yeah,
not friends until like way near the end, which would have been act 2 of the stage adaptation. So it's weird that at this point they're just like, here's some bikes, off you
yeah.
go.
Look,
We're
we
gonna
need you to succeed, even though we haven't heard from you in years. We
Yeah,
still consider you a rival that needs to be taken down. But like, here, take these bikes.
yeah. And our last interaction was where we realized you didn't even notice us
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
But here's our bikes, bro. Off you go. Good luck. We got your back.
It doesn't make sense for them to go this hard into giving Kosei that second chance, when they barely know him. Like, they barely know him, but they're putting everything, like, "Yeah, we got." They followed, to they followed Tsubaki, Watari, and, Kaori to find Kosei. And then also, so it means they followed them for one, which is a lot to go through already. It's like, so, oh, Kosei's not turned up. Oh, maybe the appropriate thing would be, oh, I hope he does turn up. I want to see him play. You wouldn't follow his friends to go find him and
Well,
then give him the bikes.
the best part about thinking that they followed them is the running joke of Cody being like, "Have you guys got bus passes?" So they got on the
Yeah.
bus. 3 of them got on the bus, and the other 2 just followed the bus on bikes.
Yeah.
Like they were just
It's
like, "We gotta catch up! Oh my god, don't lose sight of the
yeah.
bus."
I like to think that there's the three mates that are just like on the bus, and be like, just two random people on bikes following us right now, like going like, as fast as the bus.
uh,
it's it's a lot to comprehend, and it doesn't make much sense. But
it doesn't.
that's it. Yeah, it works for. No, it doesn't work for the story at all. But it's there.
No,
It's
because
there.
again, they only interject at like these competitions to give you some sort of extra context. But again,
Mhm.
considering how much it's been cut and you compare it to the anime, where they are his rivals, they have their own performances, they have their own reasons for doing things. In this, that's all just like cut, and they're just like, we're the rivals. They're
Yeah.
essentially like Team Rocket by this point. They just turn up and then do a bit and then disappear, and that's it.
It sets them up like to be much bigger characters in the song which they appear, which is one note. Um, no, it's not criticism. By the way, that sounded like an insult. Oh, this song is so one note. The
No,
song
that's
is called one note,
literally just
but
what it's
that's
called. That's
yeah. But they but they turn up and like because what the show does as well, it makes use of the balconies
mm,
in this theater. So obviously it makes it look like a theater. So occasionally you'll see like Kosei and his mates and the judges just standing in the balcony areas. So where we were dress circle. So literally actually not too far from us, we could actually
pretty much,
see.
yeah. Like off to the left and the right, you could see like the actors, and it was like I found myself getting distracted whenever I saw them though, because it's like
100%, yeah.
I'd be looking down at the stage, and it's like, okay, musical number, and then I'd look over and be like, what are you guys doing? What's going on
Yeah, is
over
it
there?
other but it is important to say that even though they're in those balcony areas, they very rarely have lines in those balcony
Mm.
areas. So most of the time they're just mouthing like conversation, or the judges are there cross arms shaking their heads or something like that.
Acting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I
Literally.
say it in
So
that mocking tone. They are actually acting though. I'm not like
Yeah, they're
taking the
right.
piss or
Yeah,
anything. It's
no. But like you said, I was quite distracted at that point where I'm looking over at Kosei and be like, "Oh, are they gonna say anything?" But like, meanwhile, Emmy and Takeshi are having a full musical number down there, saying
yeah.
"That's Kosei Arima" and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like I'm getting distracted because I'm looking like at the actors just over there, like, "Oh, okay, cool." That's the one that song sets up those two characters
Yeah.
bigger than they actually are in the whole play as well. That's
Those balcony parts were, and this is probably my bad habits from back in the day when I used to do like drama and stuff at school. When you know you're sort of not the main focus and you do like the acting, like mouthing and like space work, I would watch them in the balconies to be like, I wonder if you're gonna slack off. Like, I just wonder if because you don't need to really do anything, and because part of it, you could say you're acting by like just slacking off and looking at the stage. You don't have to react to your fellow actors like miming
Mhm.
next to you. You could just be like looking at the stage and be like, "Yep, I'm watching. I'm acting."
Yeah.
And I would just do that, like watch to be like, "I'm waiting for it. One of you is going to slack off at some point. I can feel
They was just there trying to catch them out.
it."
They did sit down for a bit as well, because like, what, Kosei and mates do, they're watching Cowley perform the first
Yeah.
time. And, it's worth saying that, Cowley doesn't perform like, unlike Kosei, who's playing the piano throughout the musical, actually playing the piano, Cowley doesn't. Mia, like, kind of mimes playing the violin while an actual violinist comes on
They
stage,
have a
like
actual like I think it's called a bow, isn't it? The thing, the like stick
yeah,
for the
yeah.
violin.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
how much we know. I'm pretty sure it's a bow. So like Coyote has the bow and is
Mhm.
miming it. However, whenever that happened and the violinist did come on stage, I was watching really carefully because I'm like, I wonder how this is gonna go. Like, is she just gonna mime any old thing? But like, if you watch like the violinist and Mia at the same time, her movements were like pretty
It's
spot on.
yeah. I think you'd have to
Obviously,
be,
it's a little more like stylized. They probably like practice like crazy.
yeah, yeah.
So they probably watch the violinist do it like millions of times to get the movements on point. Again, this is like secondary school fucking acting classes. If someone was like, "Oh, play the violin," you wouldn't actually be like, "Oh, I don't know shit about the violin,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna like
It's
like flail around and be
yeah.
like, I'm playing violin."
Yeah, she actually like mimes it like pretty well. To be fair, like it is pretty in sync, realistically. That's what kind of made me think like is Zeng actually playing the piano at times, because it's so I was so unsure whether he was or not, because it can easily just be someone tapping the right keys and there's an actual piano going on up in the actual like
Because there was
orchestra.
a band, they just
Yeah,
like hit the band.
at the top. Yeah.
But
Um.
there was one moment where like they basically confirmed, no, he's playing the piano because like there's like a really long piano solo,
Mhm.
and then there's like a screen that comes up at where the band would have been hidden, and it's basically like a bird's eye view of the piano.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like, "Oh, this is pre-recorded," but then you realize at one point, no, it's not, because like Zheng like stops at one point
Mhm.
to act, because I guess I think it was a part where Kosei is like taking a break, or like he's
Mhm.
having one of those like
Like, 'cause he's, like, kind of like the
episodes,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and like you look at the camera feed and like there's no hands there. You can actually sort of see some of his arms like moving into frame where he's actually like, acting, and you're like, "Oh shit, dude's actually playing this
Yeah.
this piano piece." It was a long piano piece as well.
It was. That was like like the length of a musical number, but just as a piano piece. So, like,
Mm,
it's clear, like, obviously, I don't know whether he played piano before this or learned it for the part, but regardless, he played it freaking well. You'd pay good money to see that kind of piano piece and like outside this musical as
right?
well. Yeah, it's like it's good. I don't know much about
That
piano, but I
was
assume you would pay
nuts.
good money for it.
Yeah, I don't know shit about piano either, but I was like, "Dang, my guy can
Yeah,
play."
yeah. And I think that this is what I mean by, like, I felt like when I said at the start of this conversation, talking about the cast, about Zeng in his first number, I did feel a little bit bad at saying that, like, I didn't rate him at first because it comes into it where, like, it comes into those later songs in the second half, and I think specifically for me, what changed my mind about him, about what I was a bit unsure about what he was like, was in the song "Speed of Sound," because at one point he hits this incredible note, like,
Oh, is that the song
yeah,
where he hits that
he
note
hits
when
the
he's standing on the
yeah,
piano? Fucking hell.
like,
That
it's
was
it
nuts.
is, like, so high, like, it's like and he hits it's not like it's a duff note either. He hits it and it's like, "Whoa, okay, hold on." That's actually like like it changed my whole perception of like him. And I was like, "Okay, no, I'm sold on this guy now. I'm sold on him now." All good on that. I think again, song's great, like cast are great. I think what kind of draws this musical back a little bit is some of the cheesy American accents. I feel that takes away from it, which is a shame. But drama's still there from Your Lie in April. It still makes you freaking emotional by the end part.
Yeah, I will say that,
Mhm.
dude, the set was pretty cool
Oh, it was beautiful, weren't it? That was really,
because it was like it wasn't that lots of set pieces come in, the curtain comes down, they move a bunch of stuff. It was pretty much like the one solid set, and
mhm.
they utilized the space rather than lots of things come on and off, and they move things around. Yeah, it was just really well done. The use of some screens as well
Mhm.
to like set some of the tone, some of the mood. Also, the use of the piano as a set piece that isn't just there's a piano.
Yeah, it was
Because
there
some
the whole
people would
time as
like,
well.
yeah, it was always on stage, but like people would sit on it, people would stand on it. Like it was like a platform. It was another piece of the set. It wasn't just like, oh, there's the piano. Be careful of the piano.
Mhm. Yeah.
I appreciate that. You know,
Mhm. It always got played into some no pun intended. It played into the scene somehow. And, like, it works, it does work, and realistically, when certain characters are talking, like, for example, there's, like, half a bridge at the, back right-hand
mm,
side of the stage, and, like, characters will have conversations around there, or, like, if it needs to be, like, a school setting, like you said, those screens will depict, like, a school background, and certain characters will stand on certain parts of the stage which relate to that more. And they do bring on props here and there where it'd be like, oh, we need to set this in a cafe or a hospital or like
yeah.
a school. They'll bring in certain points where it'd be like, okay, let's bring this bit in. If it's the scene, they drag it back out and switch it around, kind of thing. So there's a lot there, basically.
Poor them though on that point.
Ah,
In
okay,
our
yeah.
performance, um, and this isn't anything against any of them.
No,
You know,
not
shit
at all.
happens.
Technical difficulties happen. Technical difficulties do happen.
Yeah, but so the lockers come on for like the school scene, and the lockers were supposed to go off, and like on the right hand, I mean, us facing the stage, left side lockers went off. Um, but you knew something was off because the other side, right hand side for us as the audience,
Mhm.
moved in a really weird way and then was stuck there, and you saw two of the crew have to like run on and like fix it to get this thing off the stage, and I just felt so bad.
I felt bad, especially for the cast members there as well, because the moment that happens, and I'm actually pretty sure they didn't actually know that was happening at all, because they're like
Mm,
it was when it was Zeng and Dean at the time, so Watari and Kosei. Um, so like they're doing their part, they're having their conversation, their song or whatever, and like you said, there was like this weird jolt where one of the lockers
yep.
just didn't move, so you knew something was up because the other locker was gone and this one stayed, and I it's the point where the people that were in front of us, there was one guy that literally I saw his reaction when it happened because he was watching it, and then his hands just went straight to his mouth like that. It was his reaction, which I was like, "Oh god, he's noticed." It's
Oh my god.
everyone noticed it. It's the problem with it because it's so front
Yeah.
facing, and bl- like so for that moment when these two cast members are singing and they're doing their conversation or whatever, that happens, and you're like, "Oh man, that's rough. That is
Well,
rough."
it's also rough because like as someone who's done performances,
Mhm.
you know for a fact that that's gonna delay some scene changes because you cannot. Because right after that was when everyone like started bringing in chairs and stuff to like
Mhm.
set up so it's like a classroom. But
Yeah.
you obviously can't move to the next transition. People can't come on and hit their
Mhm.
marks
Yeah.
and set up the stage because there's something in the way.
Good thing is though, obviously these guys are professionals. If there was that kind of thing,
Mm,
they adapted to it really well. And realistically, those lockers, the dud ones that didn't go off in time, they were there for about maybe 20 seconds maximum as well. So
yeah, and then they
yeah,
were off. They
yeah,
were
they were
gone,
they were
so it was
gone,
all
yeah.
good.
And really, like this is well into the second half as well. So it's not like, oh, this whole musical was littered with like things. No, it was just a one time thing in the second half where it was like you'd
Yeah,
you
literally.
you'd be glad that it goes off at that point in the second half rather than in the first half where like people are still getting their first impressions of this musical, and if something
Mm.
went wrong then you'd be like, okay, that sets a precedent.
Yo, Pepper, I just realized this is the second time we've gone to see something and something didn't work.
Okay,
Do you
yeah,
remember that time we went to go see that Batman thing at the O2 like years and years
yeah,
and years ago?
yeah.
And right at the end, the Batmobile was supposed to spit fire out of the exhaust, but it didn't work. So then Batman and Robin just had to like awkwardly run off
Yeah.
stage as if it did work.
Oh, yeah, this was in the O2 Arena, and it was like a Batman. What was it supposed to be called? Batman Live is what it was called. And
Yeah.
it's like this huge stage. Again, O2 Arena in London. Huge, huge stage. So a lot of stuff going on. And what it basically is a circus performance. It's just Batman. I think all three of us that went were a little bit disappointed afterwards because it wasn't exactly, I think, what we thought it was going to be. But like you said, it was really nice because it's like the car it's the Batmobile, so it rotates, and it's like,
Yep.
oh, cool, can't wait to see this Batmobile go off, and nothing happened, and we just sat there like, what's good? And it's also worth saying that I repressed that show like crazy because I know you mentioned it now, and I remember that going off. But I actually bear in mind we saw this show like over 10 years ago. There's Batman Live.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a long, long time
I
ago.
I remembered that probably about a month ago randomly. I was like, God, I forgot that I saw that thing. And so it's been over 10 years of repressed memories of Batman Live. And then it just comes running back. I was like, oh God, I just really didn't like that. That was like, that was pretty awful.
It's funny because the perfect way to describe what that was is pantomime.
Yeah.
That was Batman pantomime.
That was mad. It's like it's something that is just it's a weird circus performance. Batman's doing all backflips, and you think it'd be cool, but it just looks a bit weird. I don't know.
It just makes me think though, because I'm like, okay, so that was the first show I saw with you where something didn't work. Now you're lying
Mm.
April. I'm like, is this just a thing every time I go and see a stage performance or some sort of performance like that with
Yeah.
you? Is something gonna go
I
wrong
don't
for the
want that to happen. If
for the
I'm not just not bringing you to musicals or West End shows ever again. Like you can just stay home, bro. I don't want you coming with me. That's gonna happen every time. I don't want to.
Hey, whoa, don't make it my
That's
fault.
your fault. It's the same way that you read sports mangas that, like, I don't know, and then they just end randomly. You're just jinxed, bro. You're just
Wow.
absolutely jinxed. Like,
Wow. My guy's blaming me.
absolutely blaming you because it just happens. You're the bad luck charm. I blame you for this musical ending at this point.
Whoa. Let's not blame me for that. I spent a lot of money there.
Oh man.
I tried to keep it going, bro. I bought freaking the ticket.
The bare
I bought
minimum.
for myself
Yeah,
and some
okay, cool.
friends programs. I bought fucking notebooks to send to my friends. Like, you motherfucker, you fuck.
That's
I spent a lot of money that
that
day.
last bit's on you, bro. That ain't on me. um,
I
but
spent more money than you. I want this shit to survive, bro. I
uh,
put my money behind it. You
it comes
motherfucker.
back to the fact that it is a crying shame that this is ending early. And
Yeah, it really is.
I will say that like this musical, like bear in mind, I've seen a bunch of shows like this in last year. I think I just made it on a mad theater hype. I saw like Dear Evan Hansen, Hamilton. I saw Two Strangers Carry Cake Across New York literally the day after I saw this, and those are like really brilliant West End shows. Like these are like top tier West End shows.
Mhm.
And um, seeing Your Lie in April, it's again when you compare it to the quality of those big West End shows, it is a little bit like, okay, it doesn't compare as much. I still think that like this, but this is how I judge a musical, right? Is that if I come away
Mhm.
afterwards singing one of the songs in my head, like I really love the song and the storyline, that is a sign of a good musical to me, like something that I really enjoyed. Um, and bear in mind, this is one thing I did want to go and look for these songs afterwards in Your Lie in April. I did want to like I came out, I was like, you know what, I could add a few of these songs to my playlist. I think they're really good. Um,
Yeah.
However, there were some drawbacks to me. For example, I think it's the storyline and some of the way the characters are portrayed. I think that's the drawback for me. I think again, it's a struggle regardless trying to adapt something like Your Lie in April to a stage. You always gonna face
Yeah.
that problem of what do we cut from the story, and like that's with any adaptation as well. This isn't just theater. This is like in live action TV shows and films. Everything's gonna have a cut down at some point.
Mhm.
And I think that is for me the biggest drawback of this musical. I don't think it's the songs. I don't think it's the cast. I don't think it's like anything. I think it's that adaptation cutting down and bit of the like choices of American accents for me.
I see. For me, I'm like, yeah, yeah. I agree that what they kept and what they cut
Mhm.
from the story was a bit strange.
Mhm.
But I also, the whole time I've been thinking like from the program, a lot of the actors like have basically like studied over here,
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm like, what would have happened if you just let them use an English accent? Because
Mm.
they didn't force Timothy the kid to do an American accent. And that also became a little jarring because Timothy's the only one who has a heavy English accent, right?
Mhm.
So like if every other actor could have just done that, would it have been a little less jarring? Would it have been a little more I mean, again, because we're
It's tough,
in
innit?
London,
Yeah.
we're in the UK. Do you know what I mean? Like, would it have just been a little better? Maybe the transition to an over enunciating the Japanese might have been a bit easier, might have been a smoother transition.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's all just speculation on my part,
Mm.
but like,
It's hard to
I
say, innit?
I don't know.
It's like you said, what is more jarring if they did do an English accent or American accent? Because bear in mind, I think Mia's American accent is actually very well done. I think it doesn't feel over-egged
I
or
actually
whatever.
thought a lot of them were pretty good. To be fair, a lot of the American accents were pretty good. They weren't even that
Mm.
jarring.
No, it
It's
isn't.
just, I think where I think where some of, and it's not anything against any of the actors, but like where some of them have like a natural accent,
Mhm.
it's trying to like erase some of their natural accent to go into the American, and I understand that because that's also quite difficult.
Mhm.
Like,
I think like for me, it's like when there's a lot of emotional scenes. I think that's the bit that kind of
mm,
like when, for example, they're having a laugh, they're doing all the comedy bits. I don't think the American accents are that bad. I think it's the really emotional bits where I feel it's
yeah,
sometimes
the
like
sad,
it's
super sad parts. Sometimes it falls a little flat
mm,
because I feel like they have. There's like a switch in your brain, and you're like, okay, I have to sound like this, and it's like, oh, now it's like
yeah,
you focus too much on one thing rather than the
hmm
other thing.
yeah, and I think what they've done here, it's the best that they can do with it. And I think realistically, I think I probably would have found British accents maybe more jarring, I think. And if anything, it comes across like they're not willing to put in the effort. At least they're trying here, I guess. This is the one thing. At least they're trying.
Interesting, interesting.
And arguably on my point earlier about the adaptation thing, obviously, yeah, a lot is cut down. A lot of it that doesn't make as much sense as the what it would do in the anime or manga. But the parts they did keep do make sense as well. When you look at it, the whole story, the parts that was kept
Yeah,
in, it is coherent, and again, it's the best you can do. It cuts out a lot of the
Well, I mean, like, that's because what was kept is, like, the important
it
parts. It's
is, yeah.
basically all the Coyote,
Yeah.
Kosei
Mhm.
parts, which, arguably, if you have to focus on anything, that's the part you would
Yeah,
focus on.
exactly.
So everything else getting cut is like, oh, that's a shame because like there's a lot of character moments. Although saying that, cutting lots of Tsubaki stuff, it worked actually. That's the one character where I'm like, that actually works because in the anime,
Mhm.
she's just like, oh, I like Kosei, and I'm trying to figure it out. But then there's this senpai or whatever from before that whole storyline in the anime I did not care for. So in this, where she's still just like, I like Kosei. Does he not? She's trying
Mhm.
to figure it out but it works. I feel like it works better in this
I
context.
think this is the thing with it, because I think when you look at, like, Watari and Tsubaki, they had the whole relationship between those 4, they've cut down Tsubaki's stuff a lot because obviously there's a lot of like, "Oh, I go out this other guy," and then, like, at that point,
Yeah,
like, obviously, in the anime, you see Tsubaki go on her dates with, what's his face? I can't remember the guy's name. But, like, she's talking about Kosei the whole time, and that shows that she has those feelings for him. However, because there's a cut down and Tsubaki doesn't have as much, you just implied that, oh, she likes Kosei, and that you're just told that she likes Kosei, but you don't see it come through as much as it does in the anime. And it's the same problem with the Kaori Watari stuff, because it is like all that's cut down and it doesn't feel as impactful that these two characters are in there. And realistic, like you said, it is focusing on Kaori and Kosei's moments. That's the thing, it's focusing on those two. And that's what you
yeah.
do. And yeah, I don't disagree with the choice of it being cut down. It needs to be done. But in terms of Tsubaki and Watari's character development, those 2 parts feel a lot more flattened because they're not involved as much. You don't see as much of them. And Watari comes across as a lot more of a comedy character in this show as well.
Oh, he's definitely the
Yeah.
comic relief
He is
in the show.
so
Like
much more. Like,
he
it
literally has like one serious moment in Act Two,
yeah,
and
and
that was it.
yeah.
Every other time was just him. Like he was essentially Johnny Bravo.
He is, yeah. I know this. I think like his comedy moments did hit as well. I'd say this.
Yeah.
I think like as the character he's playing in this show, he works, and I'm not going to disagree with that. Like again, you don't feel that Cowrie likes him at all. That is plainly obvious from like about 15 minutes into the first act. Like,
Well, it's also because like in the stage play, they rarely interact.
yeah, yeah,
Coyote and Watari, like, they rarely interact. You mostly see Kosei
hmm
and Coyote,
yeah,
like, so that's why you also don't actually get the sense that she likes Watari at all because they are rarely
yeah,
ever alone on stage together.
yeah. And like it's just like you hear the friend A thing comes in, and it kind of feels a bit like it kind of like feels a little bit pointless in this. Like I think it's mentioned in one song at one
Mm.
point. But it feels a little bit pointless as well as like the only time, like you said, the time you see them together is like they go off into a corner and start chatting. And like Watari puts his arm around Kaori at one point, and then it's like, oh, okay, no, they're in love with each other, and it's like, yeah, but you've seen that he doesn't like him pretty much.
Friend A also doesn't make sense because, like, they drop it almost as soon as they introduce it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of because, like, she then just starts calling him by his name or just not using any identifier at all. But because they're the only two people on stage, she's just
Mhm.
talking to Kosei.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole friend A shtick is pointless
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
sense because it's just like they're alone all the time, pretty
Yeah,
much.
and, like, it's like, like, there's, like, those plot points in the anime where she turns up Kaori turns up at, Kosei's school. It's like, "Oh, I'm looking for Atari."
Yeah.
All that is cut down a lot more as well. So again, adds into, the fact she doesn't like him. And the only time that friend A gets mentioned, that phrase friend A, is in songs, which makes it feel
Mm.
even more jarring because no one's calling him friend A, but he's the one that's constantly referring to himself as friend A in musical form. So it comes across a little bit jarring like that.
I suppose it's just to be the extra like, ah. Ah,
I'm beating myself
the
down.
anime, right?
Yeah, it's
In the anime, right, friend? Hey, you had
Mm.
the reference, right? Right? You got it? Did you
Yeah,
get it?
incorporate all those things, like, incorporate any reference you can into a musical form
Right.
because that's how we get them
Exactly.
across. Get it in the songs, get in the songs. But, like, I kinda wanna touch on the ending as well, because obviously, like, if you've seen our previous episode, and I'm not gonna say spoiler one because this musical isn't out now anymore, so the only time you go
Well, also the
yeah,
anime's like
yeah.
been around for a
I'm not
while.
gonna say that because it's like, and at the I'm basically gonna say this because at the end of the musical, obviously Cowley dies. Kosei's like kind of bittersweet because he's like, oh, don't go, but then he's obviously got he can hear again, he can play notes again, all that kind of stuff. He's basically back on the form.
Yeah.
Cowley's passed away, which is sad, and it really does. Like, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about this last moment as well because, like, I knew that this like in terms of adaptations, Your Lie in April, the anime is probably the strongest way you can watch it, like easily. It's the best way to watch this thing. Um, so I came into this and probably into the second half thinking it's going to be sad. I know what's coming. It's going to be sad, but I probably won't get as choked up as uh as I did in the anime. But
Yeah.
at the end scene, like where it's the last moment and she's reading the letter out, like he's reading Cowie's letter and stuff like that. Um, like, everyone's, like, standing up clapping for the actors, like, they do, like, the bit where they come on stage and they're like, "Oh, cool,
Yeah, yeah.
is this?" And everyone's, like, going like, "Woo, woo," all this kind of thing, and I'm clapping. I can't actually scream at all and be like, "Yeah," because I have a lump in my throat still. I'm not tearing up or whatever. I literally cannot, like, go, "Woo," or anything because I literally can't. I physically can't because I was actually like, "This is actually still choking me up quite a bit." Like
Wow. I mean, like I didn't cry, but I was getting like, like misty eyed
yeah, yeah.
from it. From quite a fair few scenes. There were a few times I almost cried. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean. That especially where she's reading it, and I know it's a small thing, but it was the effect that she walked behind one of the screens,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the animation on screen of like she fades away, and it's cherry
No,
blossoms,
yeah.
leaves like just like floating away, and you're just like, oh
Yeah,
no, not again.
yeah.
Especially where again I've only watched this anime recently, so I'm like, not again.
Yeah, yes.
Why?
Yeah, it does still hit those emotional levels. It still did that. That's the job of it, realistically. The job of this anime is to basically break your heart. And still does it, in my opinion. Still tells the story correctly.
Yeah, you still get everything, the important parts, like the key points. You still get the I want to say the key story because like, if you split up what the story is to like A and B plots, you get all the A plot,
Yeah.
you don't get so much of the B plot for framing
Yeah.
and character development. But again, if you got to tell a story, you should,
Yeah.
they made the call, probably the best call they could,
Mhm.
you focus on the main story.
Absolutely.
But I do want to say,
Mhm.
as like, like a closing kind of thought is, despite all of that, everything, it
Mhm.
sounds like we just have lots of gripes and stuff. Despite that, though, I did very much enjoy the show.
Yeah.
I really, as a whole thing, again, it's a shame that it's closing early because I actually really did enjoy it, and I really wish that more people got to see it
I
as
agree.
well.
Because I was looking at basically before we started this episode, I went and watched the Your Line April West End Live thing because I don't know if you know what West End
Hmm.
Live is. Basically, where a whole bunch of the West End shows gather in Trafalgar Square, and a bunch of them just play one or two songs. And
Oh, okay.
Your Line April, they did this like a week or two before their preview week, like preview showings. And just
Hmm.
seeing the songs being sung, it's like there's so much work that goes into this thing, and the performers are great, the songs are great. And I was looking at the comments for it. I was like, "Oh, what are people saying about this?" Especially since the news that this is closing, and it is a shame that some
Yeah,
people had tickets booked for September, and those just got cancelled. They got refunded, so people aren't able to see that, and that's a
that's
shame.
what our friend was saying. Like, if we had booked any later than we did,
Mhm.
that would have been us.
Yeah.
We would have been refunded. So we got pretty
I
lucky.
definitely, and I'm not going into this. I'm not like going into this talk right now. This discussion, thinking, well, I could have avoided that. I didn't need to watch that. I'm glad I did
No,
get to see that on stage before it went away
same.
because it was like, as I said before, probably not the best musical I've seen. However, it is definitely not worth canceling early, in my opinion. I think it could have done like the time that it was like given up until September. I think the run should have gone up until then, and then I can see it ending. That would be understandable completely. But I enjoyed this, and it's a shame that not everyone gets to see it personally. But yeah, I did
Yeah.
enjoy this.
I mean, especially where there's the trend of like we are getting more anime stage shows.
Hmm.
Because I mean, previously the last big one that was over here in the UK was Death Note,
Hmm. Yeah.
of which like I didn't go and see,
No,
and now I'm sitting here kind of like, oh man, that could have
I
been
kind of did
fun.
wish that I had no idea that even existed. And I would have loved to see
Yeah, I
that,
think that
but
was last year.
yeah, no clue. Like I can't remember where I saw that this was becoming a thing. I think I might have just. I think it may have been through like Theatre Direct, just emailing me saying, "Hey, you want to see this musical?" And I was like, "Okay, cool." Because originally,
I don't know.
it
I
was
found out for you, so
yeah. I think like originally it was like, "Oh, it's only got 2 dates at this time," and I'm like, "Well, it's a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and I'm working. I can't make that." And then I was like, I was just happy that I was able to book these tickets when we did. Um,
mm,
Obviously, again, like you said, in terms of anime stage shows, we've got like My Neighbor Totoro coming back next year. Spirited Away is just wrapping up in the West End as well. Both amazing shows. I'd highly recommend anyone to go see them. Haven't seen Totoro, seen Spirited Away. Spirited Away is really good. But regardless, yeah, if there are any more animated stage shows like this, I'd 100% snap the tickets up. I'd go see something like this any day.
yeah,
100%.
I as my first one,
Hmm.
I'd be interested to go see another one.
Mm, absolutely.
Like I don't, God knows what it would be, but
Mm.
I'd be down to see a second another one because this was a very enjoyable experience, and also it's quite interesting
Mhm,
to see something that's of a certain length and has a certain story,
mhm,
and how seeing how it's adapted to be in this different media. There was a lot of things that I remembered from like acting lessons that I'm like, oh okay, they'll probably do this for a certain thing or like that, or you could do it
mhm.
like this, or you could do it like that, set the scene like that. And sometimes they did that stuff. And I'm like, cool. So the basics never change. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'd be interested, especially something. Who knows?
Who knows what that
Who
could be?
knows?
Who
I
knows
know
that?
that
Yeah.
I know in Japan they were doing stuff like this for ages. Like, I'm pretty sure there's been all sorts, Naruto and Bleach.
I mean, there's oh, what One Piece, yeah, every yeah.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, One Piece has like a ice show. Like, they do One Piece on ice at this point, so that's a
yeah, I mean, hell, One Piece has like at USJ, they've got like those like park stage
yeah,
shows. I'm pretty sure I caught one whilst I was buying a fucking Coke at a
yeah,
stand at one point.
yeah.
So like, like I don't know. It's just interesting thoughts.
Mhm.
I like seeing these kind of like how people tackle these kind of challenges because it's just an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like if one again, still saying like if another one came over, like if they did like Your Name, for example, I could see them doing something like that. I don't know if you
I
know
should watch that
what.
the movie first before I even go and watch the
Maybe
stage
that's
play.
an idea, Dave. Maybe you should do that. But that is a very similar thing to Your Lie in April, and I could see that working quite well. But yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Nathan, before we wrap this up? Then.
No, I can't. This is also one of the things that sucks. Because normally it'd be like, yeah, go and do the thing, and it's
Yeah,
like, well, you can't. It's done now. Sorry. Maybe if it comes to your town, if it comes back round, you can do it. You can
yeah.
go and see
Who
it.
knows what it's like? It might be about in other countries as well, so it might be that. But like currently at this time of recording, like they're probably getting ready to do their last performance in the West End.
Yep.
So my heart goes out to them. Like honestly, break a leg for that last performance. if they'd probably never listen to this, but it's like honestly, like it was a great time watching it easily.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Fun time.
Absolutely. But if you guys have seen this at all, whether it was in the UK in the West End or if there's another show you saw, let us know in the comments. Like, would you would you want to see this? Maybe it will turn up one day. Who knows? Again, comment away, do your thing. Anyway, but thank you for listening, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that bell button for future Cultured Boys videos. Check the links in our description. We've got our X and all of our podcast platforms there. And we'll see you next time for another Cultured Boys episode. Bye bye.
Bye.